Fish on the Moon. Sheikh Bahauddin Naqshband was asked, "Why do you always say that none can learn Sufism by himself, and that nobody who thinks that he is more advanced in the way than another is of any account at all?" He answered, "Because it is a matter of my daily experience that those who think that they can learn Sufism by themselves cannot in fact do so. They have too much self-centeredness. Those who think that they cannot learn it alone can in fact do so, but because of vanity, it is only a real teacher who can give them leave to proceed alone, since he can diagnose their true condition. Whoever thinks that he is more advanced in knowledge than another is almost completely ignorant, and is not able to learn further. He goes round and round in the Satan's intestines of his ignorance. This is because the experience of real knowledge is in no way similar to thinking that one is more advanced than another. You observe that anyone whom I criticize for having self-will is never accepted by me as a pupil. This is because he would certainly feel, no matter what he imagined, that my criticism of him was motivated by a desire to teach him. Therefore, those whom I criticize I always send away. There is always a hope that they might find a teacher somewhere who does not flatter them, though it is as likely as there are fish on the moon." Kilidi and the Gold Pieces. The Sufi teacher Kilidi found that many of his disciples spent much of their time spreading stories of his amazing virtues and his uncanny power of anticipating the thoughts and instructional needs of his pupils. He reproached them for this time and again, but the human tendency to boast about someone whom one serves or admires was too strong for them. One day he said, "Unless you stop this practice, which not only keeps me surrounded by sightseers but prevents me from imparting further significant knowledge to you, I will have to make an example which will cause you to dislike me. It could make you a laughingstock for having followed me." Since this warning did not have the desired effect, Kilidi soon afterwards, in the presence of numerous disciples and members of the public, gave 100 pieces of gold to a passing beggar. Shortly afterwards the beggar came back with the gold, saying, "This gold has done me no good. My wife now says that she should have half of it, or else that she should have an equal amount from you, since she is just as poor as I am." Kilidi took the gold and handed it to a rich man who was present, saying, "Rich men don't complain of their money." He said to the beggar, "Now you are restored to your former state. Take up your normal harmonious relationship with your wife." Turning to his disciples, he said, "Now you see that Kilidi makes mistakes, and the world has seen it as well." Wheat and Barley. A distinguished learned man who was visiting Bahauddin Naqshband asked, "Through your character, exercises, and manifest capacity for good, you are established in public, as in the hearts of your followers, as the current master of the age. Was it always thus with you?" Bahauddin said, "No, it was not always thus." The visitor said, "The ancients among the Sufis were frequently regarded as imitators, derided by scholars, feared by interpreters. Some of those whom the adepts count as their most noble exemplars are registered in the books of the formerly learned as undesirables or as influences not to be welcomed by the authorities. Yet if they have contributed to the knowledge and practice of the way, they were surely visibly adepts." Bahauddin said, "Some are evidently adepts, others are evidently nothing." Where then lies the essential quality of the dervish? It lies in his reality, not in his appearance. Have such people not qualities whereby everyone can assess them? Bahauddin answered, Remember the tale of the wheat and the barley. At one time, people planted wheat in a field. Everyone became accustomed to seeing wheat come up and to live on bread made from its flour. But time passed, and it was necessary to plant barley. When this came up, many people, literalists as all ordinary scholars tend to be, cried out, "This is not wheat." "Yes," said the growers of the barley, "but it is a cereal, and it is cereals which we all need." "Charlatan!" cried the literalists. Many a time when a barley crop was raised, the clamour to drive out the cultivators was so loud and effective that they were unable to provide flour for the people. The people starved, but they thought, persuaded by their literal-minded advisers, that they were better off avoiding the crop being cultivated by the barley people. The visitor asked, "Then what we call Sufism is really the cereal of your story? In that case, we have been calling wheat or barley cereals, and have to realize that there is something more profound of which both crops are a manifestation." "Yes," said the Maulana. "It would surely be more desirable if we could be given knowledge of cereals instead of wheat or barley under the name of cereals," said the inquirer. "It would surely be better if it could be done," said Bahudin. "But the position is that most people, for their own sake and that of others, still have to work for the crop, so that they may eat. There are very few who know what cereals are. They are the people whom you call the guides. When a man knows that people may die of starvation, he has to provide what food he can. It is only those who are not working in the fields who have time to wonder about grain. It is they, too, who have no right to do so, for they have not tasted it, nor are they working towards the production of flour for the people." "It is bad to tell people to do things when they cannot understand why they should do it," said the visitor. "It is worse to explain that a certain tree is going to fall in such detail that before you have finished the story, your audience is crushed to death beneath it," responded Bahudin. The Wine Flask. It is related in the assemblies of the wise that there was once a man who wished to entertain a friend with the greatest hospitality of which he was capable. When he and his friend had been sitting for some time after dining, the host said, "Perhaps we should drink some wine to stir the dullness of our thinking and to stimulate the sharpness of our feelings." His guest agreed. Now that man had in his house only one flask of wine, and he told this to the guest. But when he sent his son, who was afflicted by the malady of double vision, for the wine, he returned and said, "Father, there are 2 bottles. Which one of them do you want me to bring?" Ashamed that his guest should think that he was not giving him his all, the father replied, "Break the one bottle and bring us here the other." The youth, of course, cast a rock upon the one and only bottle, with the result that he imagined that he had unintentionally broken both, and therefore there was no wine for host or guest that night. The guest thought that the youth was a fool when he was only suffering from a disability. The host's pride in his own hospitality was the cause of the destruction of the bottle. The boy was grieved that he had done something wrong. This was all because the host was afraid that if he told his guest at the outset that his son was afflicted by double vision, the guest would imagine that it was only a pretext for not being ready to expend all his wine. Said Bahudin Naqshband. We were standing on a small plateau in the high mountains of Kohistan. My teacher said, "Look at the conifers, how some are small and some are large. Some have rooted well, some lean awry. Others, for no evident reason, have some of their branches damaged." I said, "What can we infer from this?" He said, The tall ones are full of aspiration. Are they all successful ones? By no means. And the damaged ones? They are those who sought to justify themselves. Are the small ones better than the tall? Something may be small because of heredity, because of lack of opportunity, because of absence of nutrition, because of desire. And the deep-rooted ones? All depends upon their nature and upon the selectivity of their roots in gaining the real nourishment. Some deep-rooted ones are so because of an unnecessary greed to consume. Sometimes these are the ones which the woodsman fell and use for timber.